Welcome to my tiny tarot practice. I'm your host, Amelia Ruby, and this podcast shares my tiny tarot practice where I'm learning the tarot card by card, going suit by suit through the minor arcana. Today's card is the Nine of Pentacles. In the Rider-Waite-Smith edition of the tarot, this card features a person in an opulent golden gown with red and blue flowers on it. They've got a red hat of sorts on their head. They're holding a bird on their hand. I'm guessing it's a falcon. They look like a falconer. The bird's wearing a red mask that matches the red hat. And they're standing in this lush garden of grapes among these grape plants and vines, and there are 9 pentacles in the bushes, and the person's hand rests on one of them. So they've got one hand holding up a falcon and one hand down at their side resting on a pentacle. As I dive into interpreting this card, I must admit that it is one of my favorites in the entire tarot. It is a card I selected as a personal archetype, as a guide for my business, and one I've worked with regularly. And for me, I think that this card has always represented success, certainly, and certainly a type of material success, even luxury perhaps. This card certainly feels luxurious, but even more so, it represents the security of certainty. I feel like the figure in this card just looks so lushly at home in this lush landscape. And I think that so often for myself, the reason I'm drawn toward this card is that so often I will achieve a success and then feel so unsure and doubt. So I will have so much doubt about whether the path that I'm on or what comes next, or if what I've just done was worthwhile, or all these questions arise. And I just love how the Knight of Pentacles seems to be about awareness of success and luxuriating in it, whether that be, material success or not. That's certainly how Rachel Pollack interprets this card in 78 Degrees of Wisdom. Reading from the book here, she says, "The card signifies success, but not simply the material benefits. It means as well the sense of certainty that comes with knowing one has made the right choices and followed them with the necessary actions. Symbolizes a life that is productive and alive. It also means the ability to know where others can only guess." That definitely rings true for me. I think that through all of my 20s, what I wanted more than anything was clarity. And I feel like I've come a long way on that journey. But so often when I'm craving success, what I'm actually craving is certainty. Because what I'm getting at is something closer to security or sureness. I want to feel assured. And so this card, I think, really brings that together. It reminds me of learning that when I'm craving abundance, what I'm really craving is enoughness. It feels similar to me. Like if abundance is really about feeling enough, for me, success is really about feeling sure. And those are the lessons, actually both of them, because this is the Pentacles. We're talking about abundance. We're talking about, materiality. So I think both of those lessons exist in this card. So while on the surface of it, I initially think I was drawn to it because it felt like a card of opulence. It felt like a card of #treat yourself, right? But as I've unpacked it, it feels like that card of recognizing that success and abundance are really about sureness and enoughness. And those are things we can only find within. They don't come from external possessions or validation or resources. Those are internal resources, feeling sure and feeling enough. Do you see why I love this card so much? I get chills just talking about it, just thinking about it. The other piece of this card that I want to touch on is the bird, the falcon here. So often birds are symbols of freedom, but in this card, and often with birds that are trained, we see a different type of freedom, right? There's like a freedom in discipline here, I think. There's a freedom, the pentacles, the journey, getting all the way to the 9 hasn't simply been about, suddenly realizing this lesson. It's been about work and hard work and finally coming to this through all of that hard work. Similarly, I think so often we find freedom in a dance of restriction. We find freedom through defining our limits, perhaps going past them, but then recognizing them, pulling back to them. I'm reminded of a conversation I had with a friend years ago about the different types of freedoms we felt when we were in a romantic relationship or single, and the ways that they both felt like freedom. But for me, being single often felt like this absolute freedom, which could be terrifying. It bordered more on the sublime. And the freedom I found in partnership with when I started dating the person who is now my spouse felt much more like a freedom of settling into myself and really being able to meet and accept every part of me. Both are certainly freedom. I think there are different types of freedom that we can find in the Pentacles and in many cards of the Minor Arcana, but the 9 of Pentacles to me is that freedom of settling into yourself. And it feels so good, y'all. As always, thank you so much for listening to my tiny tarot practice. If you'd like to explore any of the books that I referenced here or find more tarot books, decks, and gifts that I recommend, you can head to the show notes and check out my bookshop. If you make a purchase through that page, I will receive a small affiliate payment that helps me keep this podcast going. Thank you so much for exploring one of my very favorite cards of the tarot with me. More soon.